Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And we often have an eclectic evening of reviews here at the Critique Corner, but I think that this might be our most eclectic ever without having to have different media like video games or comic books.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we got classic comedies. We got wild and wacky 80s action movies. Animated K-pop. What we call singers / demon hunters. We got quite a show tonight. But if you're returning, welcome back. If you're new, we critique stuff and we review things that are new or more contemporary with things that are classic and pair them up with things that we've been reviewing on our own. And to start us off this week, we are going to be talking about the original Naked Gun, although that's actually the poster for the third movie, but that's okay.
So it is. You know what? That feels oddly appropriate for the Naked Gun.
Yes, it does.
Although, Daniel, go ahead and tell them a little bit about the movie while I correct my mistake.
All right, yeah. So, so Naked Gun, although the full title is The Naked Gun from the Files of the Police Squad.
Yes.
Which was a TV show that was on not very long. I think it was only on for like a year.
It had 6 episodes, and I want to say that only like 3 or 4 of them were ever shown on TV at the time.
Yeah. So it went on very long. But they were somehow able to parlay that into a movie starring Leslie Nielsen as Lieutenant Frank Drebin from the LAPD. Also, he's partnered up with George Kennedy's character. I'm trying to remember what his name was. See, Naked Gun.
Which one character are you looking for?
George Kennedy.
Was he the partner?
Well, he was his boss.
Right.
The boss, Captain Ed Hoken. Ed Hoken, and then Leslie Nielsen's Frank Drebin's partner is played by is actually Nordberg, played by a certain former football player who became an actor who did a really bad thing in the mid-90s.
We are, of course, referring to O.J. Simpson, who was such an unconvincing murderer that a jury of his peers couldn't find him guilty.
Right. Yeah.
And his acting performance as he's kind of in a coma for the most of the movie, so I guess it's pretty decent corpse acting. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Although a lot of the things that happened to him in this movie are things that a lot of people would have liked to have done to him in real life.
Yeah, sometimes there's a movie with a really controversial actor in it, and you go, man, I don't know if I want to watch that. Just going to make things awkward. But if you hate O.J. Simpson, this is your movie because he is just constantly being shot and beaten, falling down, and just tortured.
Oh, yeah. And good to see you, Ninja.
Hey, Ninja.
So basically, like the plot of the movie is, Nordberg gets attacked by the bad guys who, as it turns out, they are they're led by Ricardo Montalban, playing Vincent Ludwig, and it's kind of the typical like cop movie action setup where like the bad guy is this, he's an upstanding member of society, and he's a pillar of the community, and he would never do anything unscrupulous or illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But he's has a plot to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II, and it's up to Frank Drebin to stop it from happening. And of course, in there's a little subplot there where Frank is romancing Ludwig's assistant, Jane Spencer, played by Priscilla Presley.
Yes, although they do practice safe sex in the movie.
That's true, they do. Yeah.
By the way, if you want to just have an idea of how long Queen Elizabeth II was in power, in this movie, she is portrayed as an old lady that came out when Daniel and I were 3.
Yes.
But so this was originally going to be our pole position classic movie. And then we realized that there really wasn't a whole lot to say about it from like a critical perspective.
Yeah, I mean it's a funny movie. It's got a lot of classic jokes, great one-liners, and it's just an all-around great cop parody movie. There's a reason it was so popular when it came out, and why it's still beloved even to this day. And apparently there's another one coming out later this year,
August 1st.
Yeah,
from Seth MacFarlane.
Yes, and Liam Neeson is playing Frank Drebin Jr.,
which is itself kind of a silly gag since I think they were roughly the same age.
Actually, Neeson might be older than Nielsen was in this movie.
That makes it even better.
Yeah.
I have some mixed. Okay, so I would say more important than the plot of the movie is the joke philosophy of the movie, which I love and I love to see applied properly. And it's basically, by and large, and there were a couple of times when I noticed they violated this rule that the Zuckers had made for it, who are the creators.
Yeah.
So one of the basic rules of the whole police squad, airplane style of movie was that you would have ridiculous things happen and characters would by and large just accept them. Like they were just part of reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And they weren't allowed to laugh or smile. Right.
And so that's of course why Leslie Nielsen was so great in this role, is because he was a classic leading man from the 50s and 60s whose career had basically fallen off a cliff until he was an airplane, and then everyone realized he was funny.
Yeah.
Usually he was funny because he could act so deadpan.
Yeah. Yeah, that one part in Airplane with him and Peter Graves where they're going back and forth is just
yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes the humor work, is that, and you look at the rest of the cast in the movie, I mean, they're all serious actors. Like none of them were comedic actors. Like, I mean, from like George Kennedy was, he was a serious actor. Ricardo Montalban, I mean, the guy played Khan. I mean,
yeah. Although this wasn't the first time. Actually, I'd have to go over his IMDb, because I don't know if it was this movie that convinced people that he was good for comedic roles like this. But he, towards the end of his career, he started featuring in a fair number of animated stories. Like he was the villain Gutierrez in Freakazoid, which that show is even more absurd than Naked Gun. And I think one of his last major roles was in the TV show Kim Possible, where he played a old man who would decide to become a supervillain named Senior. No, his name was like Senor Senior, as opposed to his son Senior Junior. And I forget what I remember it was a funny episode, or a funny few episodes they were in, but like the premise was that they just decided to become supervillains one day, so they just found a manual on how to do it. Like, but father, why do we have to leave them tied up in the trap? Shouldn't we stay here and make sure that it worked? No, my son, we must go. And it is the honorable tradition of supervillains to do that this way.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I said, this movie is just it's a series of dumb gags executed perfectly. I think if I had to rate them, I think Airplane is the better movie, but that's just because Airplane is hard to match.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it's hard for me to say too much about it. That hasn't already been said. Um, I will say one scene I really liked, which I've seen it on pop up on X, which it's the scene in the mayor's office where the mayor of LA tells Frank Drebin, "I don't want any repeat of what happened in whatever park. Now that's my policy." And that, well, when I see 5 weirdos in togas stabbing somebody, I shoot the bastards. That's my policy. Like, that was a production of Julius Caesar and Shakespeare in the Park. You killed 5 actors, good ones. But that scene was a parody from Dirty Harry, in case anyone was wondering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, oh yeah, Ninja. Yeah, surely you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Yeah. I'm on the fence about whether I want to go see the new one or not, because I know how Seth MacFarlane thinks comedically, and I don't think it's in line with the original philosophy of Naked Gun. But on the other hand, the trailers I've seen have been at least decent. Yeah,
the one trailer I saw was pretty good. Yeah, where they I did like the part where they're all the cops are talking. They're looking at the pictures of their dads up there, and then they pan to OJ Simpson, and then they show the one guy, the cop, kind of look at the camera, and he's like, "Nah,
no, not gonna mourn my father.
No, not more than him. Nope."
No. But this one, definite recommend. Mm-hmm. Go watch it on Paramount Plus and wherever fine old movies are shown.
Yes.
But now let's move on to the thing that I had the strangest response to this week. We are, of course, referring to new internet darling K-pop Demon Hunters, which, okay, that title alone, I was expecting it to be so bad and cringe.
Yeah. It's a little cringe.
You mean the movie itself, or?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it's like, it's fun and charming cringe as opposed to boring cringe.
That's true. Yeah.
So, K-pop Demon Hunters it's been trading around the top 1 or 2 of Netflix since it released on, I believe, last Friday. And I was home alone because my usual buddy I would go and see things with was going to a cousin's wedding. And I say to myself, I've watched much worse. I'll give this a go. I'm sure that it'll be like Turning Red, where it's just awful, and 5 minutes in, I'm giving up. Half an hour in, I'm texting Daniel going, okay, yeah, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So 30,000 Foot View. This is a Sony animated production, Netflix original. And it is set in a world where in Korea, there are always these trios of girls who are performers, and their songs create a magical barrier over, I don't know if it's worldwide or just Korea, that protects them from incursions by demons. Yes. And these 3 are the newest generation.
Yes, and from left to right, we got Mira, Rumi, and Zoe. And they all have interesting little backstories, and their personality quirks, which if you follow, and I'll be honest, I'm really not a K-pop person, but I know a little bit of it to know that, like, each member of a K-pop singing group, whether it's girl or boy, each person has like individual like quirks and personalities, and and talents that kind of make make up a cohesive whole for the group, much like boy bands were here in America back in the 90s and 2000s.
Right. You'll have the rap artist, you'll have the dancer, you'll have the singer, you'll have the tough one.
Yeah.
And although it is a little unusual in my experience, which I've been to a few concerts with some friends, but I wouldn't say I'm super down that rabbit hole. I can't think of the last time I saw a K-pop group that just had 3 members, but they barely had time to play with the characters they had, so totally understandable.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, Mira and Zoe are very much background characters in this movie.
Yes, this is very much Rumi's movie. Yeah.
Yeah, like I get the sense that it's almost like Sony Animation went to Netflix with a pitch for a show, and they were told make it a movie instead.
Yeah.
And so it feels like they took the what would probably have been the like season 1 meta plot and turned it into the movie.
Mm. Yeah, and they and cut out any filler episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is a nice thing about this, is that there is really not a lot of fat on the bone.
No, it gets straight to the point. Yeah. Yeah, and so they so basically, like, the whole conflict with the movie is that they're very close to like completely sealing up the barrier or whatever, like completely closing it off for good. And Rumi decides, okay, this is the time for our big single, Golden. And but then right around that time, Rumi's voice starts giving out on her, and we learn that Rumi is actually part demon, because she has because all the demons have these patterns on their arms and chests and everything, and faces.
Right, and so we find out that she is half demon. Now, this might lead you to logical questions like, okay, who's the father? We know that her mother was she's like the only legacy member of this tradition of demon slaying K-poppers. Mm-hmm. And but we don't really so her mom was one, and her mom died when she was young. We don't really know the circumstances of her mom's death, or why how she was conceived.
Yeah, I part of me wonders if like so like the big baddie in the movie is this demon thing called it reminded me of the Master Control program from Tron, to be honest.
It basically was Guima.
Guima, yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if maybe like he somehow got her mom pregnant, maybe, or something along the, kind of like a la, one of the Greek gods, like Zeus,
right? Or if you prefer, Emperor Palpatine in the Star Wars sequels, which nobody should.
No, we shouldn't.
But yeah. So if I have a criticism for the movie, and it is just because, again, they have a show's worth of subplots and ideas that they only really have time to drive down the main Rumi story. Her issue is, of course, that if they find out that she's part demon, she feels like her friends will reject her. And this is, of course, more than just being cast out of your main social group and career. This is you have 2 people who are very good at killing monsters thinking you're a monster.
Yeah. And Ninja says a couple of things. The music is a drug. Yeah, it is.
Yes. Oh, it is. Yeah. I would say that the musically, this is the most like Twice of the various K-pop groups I've experienced, and not just because they had members of Twice coming to do a version of their song "Takedown."
Yeah.
Yeah. So music is a drug. Also, the animation is okay. So Sony Animation is like one of the most inconsistent animation studios out there.
Yeah.
Like I would say Pixar was formerly consistently good and now it's consistently bad. So, it's consistency of a sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
DreamWorks, there's like two phases of DreamWorks. One where it's like you have sophisticated kids movies like Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and The Wild Robot. Then you have Drek, like The Bad Guys and the Teenage Kraken movie.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. But Sony is like the most bipolar, because this is the studio that'll give us things like the Emoji Movie. It'll give us a surprisingly good Angry Birds. It'll give us Academy Award-winning Spider-Verse movies. At least I think that at least one of the Spider-Verse movies won an award. That's my memory.
I know. Yeah, I know the second one was nominated for best animated feature.
Right, though it lost to
Boy and the Heron.
That's right.
Yeah, and then Sony Animation also gave us the Garfield movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so it's and so for this to come out where it not only just hits the right notes, if you'll excuse the pun, to do what it wants to do, but this is some of the best 3D animation I think I've ever seen, at least in the context of an action movie.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it's there was it wasn't too distracting like the Spider-Verse movies that have that kind of like Jackson Pollock feeling to it with some of the art style.
Yeah, it also occasionally does the Spider-Verse thing where it has slow frame rate. And I was kind of worried about that in the opening scene. But I think that's just a thing that as character resolutions get better, I think that's something you're going to see more often with crowd shots and things like that.
Yeah.
Just because it isn't worth the effort to give really smooth animation to, thousands of crowd members you can barely see.
Right.
But like once these characters actually started moving around, it was smooth, and they synced the music and the fighting together well. And also all the characters are just charming.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Sorry about that.
Very good. And actually, it's funny here. I had originally just picked this picture just to troll, but this actually has a good example of several things in the movie, like the combination of 2D and 3D style, because you can kind of see that the noses are hand drawn, noses and mouths are hand drawn over the CGI models for this rapid cup of noodle drinking scene.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of actual little character information here as I'm looking, because Mira is like the tough one, and her flavor is Spice Queen.
Yeah.
Rumi is the headliner and main character. Rumi, superstar flavor. And Zoe is from America, and her flavor is hamburger.
That fits. Yeah. Zoe. I remember that. Yeah, Zoe is from she was from a town called Burbank.
Which also reflects how a lot of K-pop groups will have a surprising amount of multinationalism in there. You do have American, Asians of various stripes who come in, people from Japan, Thailand, Korea, of course, China and Taiwan. As somebody who just has a buddy who occasionally shows me stuff, and has been to a couple of concerts, this definitely had that K-pop feel. We haven't really gotten to the villain squad yet, because their rivals are a bunch of demons who have decided to make themselves a boy band to infiltrate the world, because these girls are too good at killing demons.
Yes, and the lead lead in the boy band, what was his name?
Genu.
Genu, yeah. And he looks like a typical Korean pretty boy.
Oh, what's great about this is that I've been saying for years that most K-pop boy bands or boy groups,
yeah,
who will often have an aesthetic of like black leather and other costumes like that, look like anime villains. So somebody finally put that together.
Yeah. Yeah, and they decided to fight fire with fire while being on fire.
Yes. That's here. If by I'd say this is new enough that I don't want to get into spoilers.
Yeah.
I would say that if anything we've said sounds remotely appealing, go give it a watch. It's on Netflix right now. I feel like they have left a lot of money on the table by not putting this out in theaters.
Yeah. I don't know how much they spent on it because Netflix they don't report on their production budgets, but I would imagine they probably could have made their money back if they released it in theaters.
Yeah, let's do a quick little check here. Garfield movie 2024. Because this animation is so much better than that one, but it would give us a rough idea of what they would budget for a low-grade animation movie. Okay, so that one was 60 million. It would not shock me if this was twice that. Just because they're doing a lot more with it.
Yeah.
And again, they aren't paying Chris Pratt's salary, so maybe it's about the same.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, firm recommend. It's the right kind of cringe. If you're watching it, and okay, so it took me like 5 minutes to get into it because I had my guard up because I was so ready for it to just be awful.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh god, they're doing food humor right off the bat. Oh no.
Yeah.
But it actually worked, and it made me realize that they're like, no, DB. It's okay to have food humor. I keep saying humor. Food humor in an animation or comic book. It's just just because you kept having hacks at Marvel Comics putting it where it didn't belong doesn't mean it can't be funny.
Yeah.
Get over the trauma, which is ironically part of the message of this movie, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Oh, the other criticism I'll make is that it is, in a technical sense, another Asian mom expectations story. But the Asian mom does not appear on camera outside of flashbacks until one of the last scenes of the movie. So
yeah,
it could have done more with that. And I guess it's a good thing when a story is solid enough that you wish they had more time for all of the cool things that they were bringing your way.
Yeah.
But it generally works.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll either get a sequel or maybe even a TV series out of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what you would do with the series because they kind of wrapped things up nicely. But so maybe a series would just be retelling the same story but expanded, but that also feels repetitive. So
yeah,
I don't know what to recommend.
Yeah. Well, just leave that to Sony, I guess.
Yep. Well, Daniel, speaking of recommendations, how do you feel about the second season of Fubar?
Right. So, yeah, the second season of Fubar dropped last week, and it picks up a few months after where the first season left off. So the first season ended on a cliffhanger where the villain from the season burned all of the identities of the CIA agents along with their family members. So they all have to go into hiding, and they're living in this CIA safe house. And you've got, how many people are living in this house? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 people, 8 adults. So they, and it's basically just them trying to, first couple episodes, them trying to navigate like living under this roof and, you know, being cooped up inside. And that is until a new problem arises. And so if you didn't see like the first season, the whole crux of the show is Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Luke Brenner, who is a legendary CIA agent. And in the first season, he was supposed to retire, but then he gets called in for one more mission, and that mission was to get the bad guy. But he finds out that his daughter Emma, who is played by let's see what her Monica Barbaro, Monica Barbaro. Most people remember her from Top Gun Maverick. She was Phoenix. And so basically the first season was just the dynamic of the two of them having to work together. And of course the whole family dynamic with, you know, Schwarzenegger, because he's trying to get back together with his ex-wife. But then she was engaged to another guy. And that was the last episode, is that his ex-wife was getting married to this other guy, Donnie, but then it all blew up. And so Luke and his ex-wife are getting back together. All the while, her ex-fiance is living in the same house with them. Same with Emma, her ex-fiance, who was the kindergarten teacher, played by Jay Baruchel. I think that's how you pronounce it. Baruchel, who he was in Tropic Thunder. He was the guy with the glasses. He was also the voice of Hiccup in the How to Train Your Dragon movies.
I kind of remember you mentioning that, like when you reviewed the first season, where it almost feels like it is that McBain parody. In my next movie, it's called "Help, My Son Is a Nerd."
yeah. Pretty much, yeah. But this season, they have to stop a crazed, very nihilistic enemy who used to be an agent, but now he wants to just completely destroy the world, and he's targeting the U.S. Power grid. So he wants to just completely shut down the entire power grid and put us, you know, all back put us literally back in the dark ages. And it's this season was not nearly as good as the first season. That
seems to be the Netflix curse, isn't it?
Yeah. They have a hard time like matching the energy of another season. Like, I mean, Stranger Things had that problem too. And it actually, this show kind of suffers from the same problem as Stranger Things, which is just way too many characters. And it's just, you know, it's kind of hard to like keep track of like all the interpersonal dynamics between everybody. And it's just, it was, and I had a really hard time getting into it. Like, so they introduce, so we got a couple of new characters who are basically like villains and then friends and then villains again, which kind of fits in with the whole spy motif, because it's like you don't know who to trust and all that. One of them is her name is Greta. She's played by Carrie-Anne Moss, who was Trinity from the Matrix movies.
I knew I recognized that name.
Yeah, she's like an old East German spy who had a very passionate love affair with Schwarzenegger during the Cold War. He thought she was dead, but she actually faked her death so that she wouldn't get so she could get away from the KGB. And then another guy, his name is last name is Chips. He's an old MI6 spy who is a few fries short of a Happy Meal, not very bright, or at least that's how he's portraying himself. And he just falls madly in love with Emma, and one of the biggest problems I have with this season is they were really Mary suing Emma. Because she had not one, not two, but three guys in this season who were in love with her. And if there were guys in there that weren't in love with her, they were like really kind of propping her up and really boosting her ego. Yeah, except for Rue, who was she's one of the agents. She's the lesbian. Like she was the only one who was like kind of like adversarial towards her. But other than that, like everybody was like just kind of talking about how great she is, and like Schwarzenegger, I can understand because I mean he's her dad, so I get why he's encouraging her. But it was just like everybody was just like really just kissing her ass.
So if you were kind of expecting the show to focus on Schwarzenegger, does it?
Not really. No, well, it kind of does. I mean, they focus on like his relationship with Carrie Ann Moss's character, but oddly enough, like he does kind of feel like he's like a shadow in the show. Like he isn't nearly. It doesn't feel like he's as involved in this season as he was in the previous season. Yeah, and I don't know if that was intentional with Schwarzenegger, because I mean Schwarzenegger, let's be honest, as great a shape as the man is, he is pushing 80,
right?
So there's not really a whole lot he can do anymore.
Right, he's only fit to be president or a senator.
Yeah. but yeah, I mean I was really disappointed with it. And it wasn't as funny as the first season either. Like the first season had some really good humor in it. This season was just kind of like, yeah. Some of the humor was a little cringe. Yeah. Part of me kind of wondered. Ninja says, it could be the case of amount of effort and allowing in the writing process. Okay, there were times I thought it felt like this was written by AI.
Oh no.
Yeah, it did. It did, yeah. But yeah, yeah.
Not impressed.
Not impressed. No.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, I guess all of our solo reviews can't be gold. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, One Piece film, Gold. So this is another one of those anime movies I picked up for either free or cheap on an Xbox Anime Month event sometime in the last couple of years. And I had some free time to myself. I want to say I watched this last Thursday. And I just said to myself, you know what? I'm just going to pedal for a bit on my little desk bike and watch something. And let's see what we got here. I bought these things, might as well watch them. Unlike the previous one of these I did, which was the Naruto movie, this one I can actually recommend. And I'm going to go part spoiler here because, shoot, I just want to talk about some of the fun aspects of it. But I would say that if you're familiar at all with the series, give this a go. And this is one of the rare shonen animated spin-off movies where I feel like you wouldn't necessarily need to understand too much about the series as a whole to get what was going on.
Okay.
I also don't know if One Piece had a bunch of these movies where they named them after colors, because this one was called Gold. A couple years back, I did One Piece Red, where they had the Japanese artist Ado do the soundtrack.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I do not have enough context on the series to know if there were more. All right, so basic premise: you have the Straw Hat Pirates, who are pirates, but they're good guys. And in the course of things, they end up on this giant floating island called. Let's see, what was it called? Was it just Gold Island? That seems wrong. One second. sec. Just double checking my notes here. By my notes, I mean Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So, that's right. Gran Tesoro, which is a 6-mile long ship that is made up entirely of this enormous casino complex. And it is estimated to have 20% of the world's gold on it. As you can see, the stuff is just showering down constantly. And the crew shows up. I don't think they had any particular mission in mind. I think they just stumbled on it and decided this looked fun. Which is very in keeping with them to just wander around and stumble into adventure. And at first, they're accepted as honored guests because the bounties on them are so valuable that of course they're honored guests. Like that's like a measurement of your value. And so they have some misadventures, like they do a car race where the cars are powered by these muscle turtles here, pumping the pistons at full speed, which is One Piece fights with Dragon Ball for the competition for most absurd mainstream shonen series, and I think One Piece usually wins that contest.
Yeah.
I should say One Piece, besides things like do 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 do, or whatever that one was called, where it's like intentionally a parody. This is just like raw imagination.
Yeah.
And so the crew meet the owner of they meet the owner of the island. Let's see here. What was the guy's name again? That's right. That's right. His name, the big villain up here is named Tesoro, which I guess makes sense that this egotistical asshole would name his island after himself, Grand Tesoro. You find out that he is, like many people in the series, a devil fruit user, and he specifically has gold powers, which basically means that he can control anything that has gold on it. Which, hey, what do you know? What has been slowly dusted on the crew the whole time they've been there? He manages to get them in debt because one of his minions back here, named Baccarat, has a luck powers that she's able to use to. She basically gives them a winning streak and then takes it away after convincing them to double down. And so the crew is now in debt. Good old Zoro here, the only smart man on the crew, in my opinion. Of course, he tries to make a fight of it, and he ends up captured and is going to be executed in the morning as part of the entertainment for the island. And so our crew basically has to do an Ocean's 11 style plot to overthrow him, free Zoro, and get out of there. All with the help of this character, who turns out to be a past associate of their thief and navigator Nami.
Okay.
And they have a career, or excuse me, they have a history of turning on each other, which adds a little bit of tension to things, like who's really on whose side here.
Yeah.
So, animation-wise, first, there are some amazing sequences. Like the opening is amazing. Some of the fight scenes are really well done and frenetic, very detailed, very smooth. Of course, this is counteracted where they long shots where nobody's moving and character models look a little bit off. But it's like they're using their time and budget sensibly. You can also tell that this would have been Funimation at the time. It's part of Crunchyroll now. Was being sensible, or actually, I should say they invested a lot in this, because while One Piece is kind of below my radar most of the time, it is one of their most consistently selling series. And so they did the effort to do things like the opening couple of songs that had singing, they actually bothered to have dubbed, which is a rarity with these types of shows.
Yeah, it's usually they just stick with the original Japanese.
Right, just like it's really funny when they have an English voice actor who sounds nothing like the Japanese voice actor. Because you'll just have somebody who sounds like an ordinary woman on the street, and then suddenly she's singing in this bubblegum high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. I would say that my only criticisms of this thing is that it does feel like it has a second, third act, like a lot of shows and movies do these days. I would say like at 90%, all you have to know is that you have a crew of crazy pirates who go around doing good, and that's established very quickly. Since they do have an opening fight against a crew of scalawags who have decided to rob the island blind, who the Straw Hats take in, or take out, I should say. There are some secondary characters who are introduced where I'm going to assume it was like the status quo of the anime when this movie came out involved Luffy's brother skulking around and things with the world government and navy and whatnot that were, I would say, you could have cut out everything that the Navy did very easily. And you would have had probably had a better movie. There was also a subplot where they run into a trapped gambler and he gets his groove back. That was also just kind of a momentum killer and time waster.
Yeah.
So that drops my score of it a little bit. The other thing I appreciate, and I was worried they were going to do this, you might recall from One Piece Red, where I said this movie refuses to actually have a villain and just presents everybody as making bad mistakes for the sake of the plot, and everybody's just sorry.
Yeah.
I was worried they were going to do that because they kept flashing back to Tesoro's history. But like they did it in a good way, where it was just brief flashes where you saw his life of deprivation before he ate the fruit that gave him his gold powers, where he was just a penniless person who had it seemed to be like he had either a prostitute or a slave that he had fallen in love with who he was trying to be with, but he just didn't have enough money for it. And so he was basically perverted by that. He just decided that money is all that makes anything valuable. His sense of humor is very sadistic and cruel. And I was like, no, he has all these people enslaved and in debt to him. You can't possibly try to pretend that he's sympathetic somehow. And the good news is that they didn't pull that trigger. It just gave you a little bit of understanding of his backstory. And so it kind of went along with a moral of, I guess, be careful lest you become a monster.
Okay.
But he is a good villain just because of that. He is dag nasty evil, just delightfully so.
Yeah, we need more villains like that.
Right. It is like the modern delusion that, oh, well, because the villain has an understandable backstory, therefore he isn't that bad. No. This guy is awful. It's just that he's a sensible sort of awful. You can see where somebody raised on the streets who had his morality completely ground away could turn into a materialistic monster like this. Let's see. I would say the only lore thing I would question in this is, would Nami, while she was canonically being the enslaved navigator for Captain Arlong's crew of Sharkmen, have had time to have a never before mentioned associate like this, who she did unrelated thieving jobs with?
Maybe.
I'm not enough of a One Piece lore expert to do that or to rule on that, but
Yeah.
it did strike me as my limited knowledge of the series and limited viewing of the series did make me wonder, would that have actually worked out timeline wise? But it's also a non-canon movie, so it's all good.
No, yeah.
It is way more plausible to happen in this series than any of the 90s Dragon Ball movies. So there's that.
Oh, yeah.
Where all of those just like literally could not happen at all.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I would say again, like this pulls off the landing of, even if you don't really know One Piece very well, this is approachable, and it's just a good shonen action set piece. I still think my award for best introduction to a series you might not have ever seen is still that Black Clover movie they did a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
But this is definitely competition.
Oh, okay. Oh, very cool. Yeah.
I am not sure where you could watch it. Probably on Crunchyroll ? Maybe on Netflix, since Netflix does have a lot of One Piece things on it since they're doing the live action show.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anything of this sounds remotely interesting, give it a go.
Yeah. All right. Sweet.
Now, Daniel, I have a question for you.
Mm.
Do you believe in Jesus? Because you're gonna meet him.
Yeah. Death wish is.
Yeah, I wish I was dead.
We wish I was dead. Oy. Yes. We watched. We finally got around to watching Death Wish 3.
The search for more explosions.
Yeah. And exploitation.
Yes. Yeah. So we've talked about Death Wish 1 and 2 before. Our general consensus was that Death Wish 1 was a surprisingly sophisticated movie, given its general pop cultural reputation.
Yes. And then Death Wish 2 set the bar very low.
Yeah, it was just a trashy movie without the philosophical and character growth that made the first one interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Philosophical underpinnings, I meant to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I mean, what else can you expect from canon films?
Yeah. They weren't making them to be art. They were making them to be products.
Right. Yeah. And and this one was no different.
Yep. Just I would say that its biggest strength is that it knows what it is, whereas the previous one almost felt like it was trying to mimic the first one.
Yeah. Yeah. This one just went like completely over the top with large action set pieces and
gratuitous exploitation scenes.
Yeah. Really over the top, almost cartoony villains.
Okay, so I have never seen A Clockwork Orange, but the overall style of the villain kept reminding me of what I have seen of that movie.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. So the basic plot of this movie, such as it is so Paul Kersey is back in New York. He hadn't been back in 10 years, which was the time from the first movie.
Which I realized that I didn't recognize the city at first because I didn't notice any of the landmarks.
Oh.
And I think they're in like a different part of New York than you often see in like establishing shots. So when they revealed he was back in New York, I was actually a little bit startled because I said to myself, wait a minute, I remember a police chief many years ago telling him that if he ever got back to New York or ever came back to New York again, that he was going to be arrested.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember, but that cop actually got killed in the second movie.
Oh, that's right. So maybe he thought that the threat was gone.
Yeah,
nope.
Probably. Yeah. Nope. Yeah. No. He's back in New York because he's visiting a friend, an old war buddy. But the old war buddy gets killed by this gang that's taken over this whole neighborhood, and then Paul goes in, gun drawn, sees his friend's dead, and then police show up and arrest Paul.
Since yeah, he is standing over a dead man holding a gun, so it's
yeah.
All right, boys, detective work's over.
Yep. I'll go home. Yeah, so he gets arrested, and then the police chief there, his name is Richard Stryker. Stryker. The guy the actor who plays him kind of looks familiar. I've seen him in he's one of these character actors that just pops up in everything.
Ed Lauter. He was in the 70s King Kong, not on the Teen movie as the coach. Huh. He was in Cujo.
I never saw Cujo.
Me either. I'm just going over his IMDb real quick to see if there's anything I've ever actually seen here. Grey's Anatomy, Chocolate News, The Prince and the Pauper, the movie, which I've never heard of this edition.
Yeah.
Purple Heart, Brothers in Arms. Oh, he was in the Adam Sandler Longest Yard as Dwayne.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, definitely a character actor, just in whatever would pay the bills, I guess.
Yeah, and Stryker he makes a deal with Paul, because he's got the problem with this gang, and he said, "Hey, you help me take care of this gang, and I won't go after you. I won't prosecute you for anything."
Right. And the problem, you might ask, why doesn't the police just go after the gang? Well, it's because their gang leader has excellent lawyers who keep him out of trouble.
Yeah. And one of the gang members I recognized was Alex Winter, who played he was Bill S. Preston Esquire from Bill and Ted.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hermosa.
Yeah. Yep. And another actress in the movie was actually you probably wouldn't recognize her because she's kind of unrecognizable in this movie, but it's Marina Sirtis, who played Counselor Troy on The Next Generation.
Oh, who was she in this one?
She was the Hispanic woman who had a bad thing happen to her.
Wait, is Counselor Troy's actress Hispanic?
No, she's British.
Okay. Did they just bronze her up for this movie?
Yeah, they bronzed her. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it's Canon Films. What do you expect?
Yeah. Also means we've gotten to see the counselors then.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, what's interesting is there's a documentary about the history of Canon Films, and they talked about the Death Wish franchise, and they interviewed her in the documentary, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I definitely felt exploited."
Yeah, as well she should have.
Yeah.
Now, story-wise, Kersey is basically done progressing as a character. His character was basically set in the first one. It looked like he was going to put aside his vigilante ways in the second until the last bit of his old life was finally taken away from him. Yeah. And so in this one, he's just kind of, and of course, in this one, they cut to the chase by having him have this forced mission from the police chief. So he's basically on the hunt from the jump.
Yeah. And they also kind of implied in like a couple of little expository lines that he's been basically traveling all over the country, just going around being a vigilante and just killing criminals.
Yep. I mean, this is basically the Punisher movie franchise we never got when you get down to it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Which you might say, DB, there have been multiple Punisher movies. Yeah, but never 5 with the same guy.
Yeah.
Is more what I mean.
Yeah, we've had 3 different guys. Well, actually, let's see. Lundgren. Four different Punisher actors.
Right.
But yeah, yeah. So Paula is just basically doing all of it. It kind of felt like you mentioned it too. It was kind of felt like a Man with No Name type story.
Yeah, like if you just change the background a little bit, it'd be a Western.
Yeah. It also kind of felt like, to me, it kind of felt like a Jack Reacher story too. Like this is something like Jack Reacher would do.
Right. He just puts up shop somewhere and deals with a problem.
Yeah.
And it is kind of nice just to see Bronson just cut loose to be in hunter mode the whole time instead of having to futz around with being a civilian.
Yeah.
Because he does all sorts of absurd shit, like, pardon my language, but like he's the original Home Alone with all of his ridiculous traps that he makes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's got one where he puts it on the board and then it snaps, and then when the window opens, it snaps up and hits the intruder. And they pull back and look at it. They're like, "Hey, what's that on there? Teeth."
Yeah. Where he'll have like a whole bunch of nails on a board under a window, so when someone tries to break in, they just completely rip up their feet.
Yeah. And have to get a tetanus shot.
Yep. Now, as far as the villain, there's not really much to him. Again, like the fact that he has these lawyers who are so good at getting him out of trouble. First off, it's because he does a good job of keeping his own hands clean as far as the public can see.
Yeah, he never participates in any crimes. He always gets one of his gang to do it.
But you also get the feeling that he's like an affluenza kid.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I don't think it's actually ever stated anywhere, but that's just the impression he gave off.
Yeah, the psychology of him. Yeah. Well, that would explain the lawyers. Yeah.
Yep. That was the other bit that made me think of that. Also, nobody but a spoiled sociopath rich kid would ever get the idea, I'll shave my head perfectly down the middle of my head so that I have extra room to draw my gang tattoo or my gang markings.
Yeah. It was a pretty dorky haircut.
Yeah, it made more sense once he had his mark on it, but it was still like, I just kept thinking, is that a real haircut? Is that a thing that people did in the 80s, this reverse mohawk? Because I've certainly never seen it.
I haven't either. Yeah. Yeah. They basically it all kind of builds up to this climax that's just, they just completely destroy this entire city block.
Yeah, my immediate thought when we were watching it was, is this classic meme right here?
Was this yeah,
we did it, Patrick. We saved the city.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh god.
Because
Ninja got it.
Yep. The yes. The end of the end fight scene involves two different people with two different 30 cal machine guns, an anti-tank missile launcher.
Yeah. Which Canon Films must have really liked killing their bad guys that way.
Yeah, it's so satisfying, and you can rig up a huge explosion from the outside and not have to actually have the actor doing the acting or die or death acting.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, this movie kind of, well, I should say that this movie definitely falls into the so bad it's good category of, like, yeah, it's a bad movie, but it's entertaining.
I don't necessarily know that I would call it bad per se. It's more just like hyper focused on what it's doing.
Yeah.
Like at this point, Bronson is playing a established character. He does make the mistake of falling in love with someone, which is bad news for them.
Yeah. 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 It's like being Dirty Harry's partner. It's just like, it's not going to go well for you.
Yep. But Bronson is like always interesting as this character, especially when he's in hunter mode, because he's just so like he feels so weirdly happy and relaxed. It's like he's a happy warrior.
Yeah.
Because it's like he just keeps coming. Okay, what did you do? Oh, this is my new car. Bought it with cash. He just puts it out there as a trap. Just as an excuse to gun down a couple people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the parts of that I like. The other part of it too is when he's walking around with this expensive camera.
Yep.
And this guy just walks up and steals it, and he just shoots him in the back
with an absurd handgun with like an elephant gun bullet in it.
Yeah.
Makes a pure like a clean hole right through him.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, I have been told that it is not worth our time to look at numbers 4 or 5, and that makes sense because I mean at this point we've hit the okay. When I preface this, I have not seen the Rambo movies, but I know them by reputation. And it feels like this one is a similar trajectory with Rambo, where the first one is like actually a serious psychological movie that you can, think about and discuss and have meaningful thoughts about.
Yeah.
And then after a couple, it turns into a action porn cartoon.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen all the Rambo movies, and yes, I can attest to that. Rambo 2 and 3 are basically the same movie.
Which one was dedicated to the Mujahideen?
3.
Either that, in terms of statements that have not aged well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is definitely an action cartoon. Like the other movies, there are explicit scenes of sexual assault. Mm-hmm. So make of that what you will.
Yes, fair warning. Yeah.
There's a lot of rampant human cruelty for and against the side of justice. Because Bronson is still in his mindset of, well, if you're a bad person, you have no rights. You forfeited those.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So this movie is on so it's on Amazon, but you have to have an MGM Plus subscription.
I think it's also on Pluto TV, though. I couldn't be bothered to make that work, so I just ended up renting it from Amazon.
That's what I did too. Yeah, it was like $4.
Yeah, like 3 and change.
Yeah. So,
but if you like schlock, this is worth. This is worth a go. Oh, I do have one last thought.
Yeah.
So I can't remember from Death Wish 2. Did they bring back his original electronic music theme in that one? Because I'm trying to remember if they did or not.
I can't remember, but I think. I mean, I did see Jimmy Page did the music, and I think he did the music on the second one.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, Jimmy Page he's a guitarist for.
Was it Pink Floyd?
No. Someone Led Zeppelin.
That's it.
Yeah.
Similar area of banding.
Yeah.
So I didn't recognize who did the soundtrack for this one. Definitely wasn't Jimmy Page. It was much more like a 70s jazzy style, which meant that when they brought in the electronic main theme of Death Wish from the first movie, it felt a little bit out of place.
Yeah.
didn't quite jive with the rest of the style. I mean, it was nice to hear it because that first soundtrack, didn't it win an Academy Award, as I recall?
Probably, yeah.
Or at least it was nominated.
It was a good soundtrack. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah. Let's see,
Death Wish Awards, Golden Screen, Grammy. I won a Grammy for best original score written for a motion picture or television special.
Oh, okay.
For Herbie Hancock. Okay, that's. Oh, that's right. He didn't. Yeah, that's right. The Led Zeppelin guy didn't do the first one. He did the second one.
Yeah, I thought he did this one too.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Either way, it's just there's a little bit of music dissonance in the style of it. Yeah. Although, funnily enough, for a movie that came out in '85, it felt like more of a classic '70s soundtrack than the original that was made in the '70s.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Just with the instrumentation and everything. Probably because in 1985 that was a cheap way to produce music. So.
Yeah. Well, again, Canon Films.
Yeah.
They rarely ever did anything expensive, and when they did, it bankrupted the studio.
Yes. But anyway, okay. Thoughts over. This is a silly action movie. The last act is worth the price of admission itself. I would say, if I was going to give somebody a watch order for this series of what I've seen, I would actually just say jump right from 1 to 3, because you don't really lose anything besides wondering where that other police chief went, where the police officer went.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and he does briefly mention his daughter, but
you can just assume she died off camera.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's fun schlock, and if you watch the other 2 Death Wish movies, you could definitely jump right into this one.
If you stomached 2, this is your dessert.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think we've said all we need to say for tonight.
Indeed.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the notification bell, buy some books. Links are in the description down below. And we'll see you next week. Night, everybody.
Good night.